25 facts about the Martian. Pack your bags. They've found water on Mars. Matt Damon runs a hotel there called the Martian. Ridley Scott will fix you a visa and give you a word of advice on how to live and work on Mars. This may sound like a nice joke to tell your SF movie fan buddies, but this doesn't mean that the red planet hasn't become a true blue one like Earth in our eyes. This has never happened in the long and turbulent Hollywood history. You're making a movie about aliens, and they find some little green men in our backyard. You're making a movie about Mars, and the next thing you know, NASA finds rivers there. Does Ridley Scott know something that we don't? Does he have spies in NASA? Maybe some Gladiator fans have decided to give wind under the Martian wings. Let's find out what happens to a movie when no other than NASA takes care about your movie's advertising. Number 1. Which one is a tougher thing to do? To survive on Mars on your own, or experience the hell called self-publishing? Well, we should ask the very first Martian, Andy Weir. He wrote it. He published it. He got both NASA and Ridley's attention. Did you know that The Martian began as a free personal blog? The fans urged Andy Weir to make it possible to read The Martian in a downloadable form. Even then, Andy proved us one more time that his favorite color is red and not green. He accepted to put The Martian on Amazon in Kindle form, but for the lowest price possible of only 99 cents. Number 2. So what happened on Amazon? Well, The Martian literally exploded, in 35,000 copies sold in less than 3 months. The catch is that more copies were bought than downloaded before for free. Is this amazing or what? Andy got his first 6 figures check from the Crown publisher for the print rights. The rest is movie history. Number 3. Here's what happens when you're trying to hide yourself from the dollar bills. You sign both a book and a movie contract in the same week. Again, one more 6 figures check on Andy's desk. Yet we're more than convinced that he just doesn't care about it. One week, Andy Weir was able to spend at NASA's Johnson Space Center thanks to his book, probably worth more for him than all of his impressive money. That's our true Martian. Andy is definitely not from this planet. Number 4. It's more than obvious that the book's author is a space nerd. But did you know what he does for a living? Andy Weir is a developer, and a good one, we have to admit. He'd personally created specially designed software which calculates how much time is required for a spaceship to get from Earth to Mars in real time. This is actually the most precise software we can use for this purpose in the world. Andy is so Marserious, isn't he? Number 5. Here's one cool Lord of the Rings reference. The book borrows a name for a mission plan, the Council of Elrond. In addition, the immortal Boromir, played by Sean Bean, also appears in The Martian. He portrays the Martian's character, Mitch Henderson, who attends the Council of Elrond. Number 6. September 28, 2015 is undoubtedly a historical date. Not even a week before The Martian's official US release schedule, NASA told us that there's water on Mars. Now imagine what would have happened if NASA had found the aliens prior or during the Independence Day premiere. It turns out that you first have to check with NASA before making your next sci-fi movie. Otherwise, you can get yourself into serious trouble, called the historical inaccuracy. Number 7. Now here's a $1 million question. If you want to make a movie about Mars, where are you going to find the red terrain on Earth? Well, the Jordanian Red Desert proved itself as a perfect Martian location for Ridley Scott. For what it's worth, he had some other plans, but the Aussie government wasn't particularly cooperative for some unknown reason, and he had no other choice than to relocate. Number 8. Here's one more interesting fact about the movie location. The Red Planet 2000 was shot at the same location as The Martian. However, this movie mission was a huge and disappointing box office failure. Even the notorious robotic dog AMME couldn't rescue this movie. The Martian wouldn't share the same fate with the Red Planet, that's for sure. Number 9. Who could have thought that both the movie and the book The Martian have the capacity to soften NASA's cold heart? Andy Weir pulled some of his book strings in NASA in order for Ridley Scott to get the invaluable first-hand consultancy. We're talking about some of the true blue NASA guys, such as James L. Green, the director of Planetary Science Division at NASA, and Dave Lavery, the program executive for Solar System Exploration. This was a true win-win. Ridley and his crew got the right kind of advice, while at the same time, NASA was able to promote space exploration like never before. One of the most powerful alliances in the world, the NASA Hollywood. Number 10. NASA wasn't only the Martian's best friend, but also the most powerful guarantee for the mind-blowing movie's accuracy. Here's a catch. If you want to obtain NASA's blessing, then you have to play according to NASA's rules. The Martian was serious enough, and the next thing you know, more than 50 pages of its script are actually NASA material. Without any exaggeration, we can say that The Martian is in fact the NASA documentary about the future Mars mission from A to Z. Number 11. There's no other movie in the entire sci-fi or Hollywood history with better NASA support than The Martian itself. More than one NASA department participated from the very first pages of the movie script development all the way to the theatrical release marketing support. The full-scale NASA spacecraft Orion was used for the front page of the script for The Martian. Sometimes it's really hard to say where NASA ends and The Martian begins, right? Number 12. James L. Green, the director of Planetary Science Division at NASA, said that this is one of the most realistic sci-fi movies ever made. Yet, in order to save NASA's rigorous reputation, when it comes to the uncompromising scientific accuracy, he had no other choice than to include a few remarks here and there. The movie's frightening dust storms would actually be much less serious in the real-life Mars-related situations. In addition, the NASA buildings used in the movie would be more stylish than strictly functionally orientated. NASA style wins over NASA functionality. Maybe NASA really has changed. Number 13. One of the most impressive things in the movie were definitely the complex and shiny spacesuits. If you think that NASA is to be praised for it, then you haven't seen the Prometheus, 2012. Ridley had to do a little bit of borrowing of his own. Number 14. Here are some interesting facts about Mars's surface that The Martian taught us about. The average temperature on Mars's surface is -81 degrees Fahrenheit or -63 degrees centigrade, compared to our home planet's average of only 57 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 degrees Celsius. Here's more. One regular Martian day lasts 24 hours and 37 minutes. On the other side, a Martian year is considerably longer, with 687 days. Finally, Mars's gravity is 62% lower than the one we have on Earth. What does it mean for a person who weighs around 220 pounds or 100 kilograms on Earth? Well, this guy would weigh only 83 pounds or 38 kilograms on Mars. So what's the moral of this educational story about Mars? Well, if you're facing an overweight crisis, you should pay a visit to Mars. And problem solved. Number 15. Jessica Chastain and Matt Damon had the second opportunity of working together. The first one was also a sci-fi movie of similar exploration main theme, Interstellar, 2014. Yet when they played together in Interstellar, they had not a single scene together. The Martian has fixed that as well. Number 16. Jessica Chastain hugely benefited from her space interstellar experience. Her Interstellar co-star, Anne Hathaway, gave her some invaluable advice how to use a spacesuit properly. In addition, Jessica paid a visit to the JPL and NASA while preparing for The Martian. She was a good girl who did her homework thoroughly. She read the book and met some of the real-life astronauts. Nice job, Jessica. Show us how it's done. Number 17. Multiple cameras had to be used for the filming of this movie, including GoPro cameras. GoPro on Mars? Now you've got all the adrenaline elements in one place.
I am the greatest botanist on this planet.
Number 18. Well, it can't be that perfect and accurate, can it? It's about time to mention some of the inaccuracies, but you don't have to worry. They won't spoil the positive feelings we have about saving the private Martian. In the book, the Martian Mark Watney has 2 master's degrees, one in botany and the other in mechanical engineering. However, in the movie, we had a chance to hear only about the PhD in botany, but not a word about the mechanical engineering. Maybe that wasn't necessary. He couldn't possibly survive without the knowledge of engineering or mechanics. Number 19. In the book, the storm, which caused all the trouble for Mark, left him only with a couple of cuts and minor abrasions. However, in the movie, Mark had to pull out a metal piece out of a serious abdomen wound. This wasn't the spoiler, because we know that our Martian is going home, sooner or later, one way or another.
Tipping! Watch out!
Number 20. The Martian Matt Damon had some really tough time making this movie. His solo scenes were shot for 5 weeks straight. After this movie marathon, Matt got some time off. Apparently, he met his co-stars not before the official promotion of the movie. Can we possibly blame him? Number 21. It's a funny thing to hear, but Matt Damon had some serious doubts and concerns that The Martian is going to be too similar to his previous movie, The Interstellar, 2014. Ridley Scott had no other choice than to include some heavy artillery convincing. Luckily for us, Matt finally realized that these two movies tell 2 completely different stories. Number 22. Yet some striking resemblances between Interstellar and The Martian just couldn't be avoided. For example, one of the most obvious ones was when Mark Watney character loses air from the helmet glass cracked open, which is very similar to the situation in the Interstellar, where Dr. Mann, played again by Matt Damon, cracked the helmet glass of character Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey. In both worst-case scenarios, the air escapes from the cracked space helmets. Number 23. Here's one more striking resemblance between the two iconic sci-fi movies. The method that the Martian crew uses to slow down the ship by causing an explosive decompression in the airlock to save Matt Damon's character Mark Watney is actually almost identical to the one Matt Damon's character, Dr. Mann, dies in Interstellar.
For Cooper's life, this is about all mankind. There is a moment.
Number 24. Jeff Daniels is probably one of the least expected actors to have the richest Martian-related movie experience. He started in one more movie besides The Martian itself called My Favorite Martian, 1999. However, this wasn't much of a help, having in mind this was a Disney movie with a funny Mars-related story. Number 25. In the book, we could learn that Mark the Martian was a huge fan of botany and mechanical engineering. On the other side, he wasn't much of a disco music fan, as we might have expected him to be. The movie itself includes the profound selection of the 1970s music. However, we couldn't find Jimi Hendrix's version of All the Long Watchtower in the movie, as it was suggested in the early previews.
I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this.